Balloon Beats.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Unhinged Live. As usual, I'm your host, Patrick Hennessy, joined today by the man, Pathetico Madrid, Jay Lonzo. How we doing, Jalen?
Listen, I know everyone's all upset about the Yankees right now, but my school just threw a no-hitter against the University of Marshall. So
Very nice.
some good baseball is being played somewhere. I can't
Just
say
not
that
in the Bronx.
it's
Just
not in the Bronx, but there is good baseball being played somewhere.
But listen, before we do talk about today's game, whether we want to rant, I think I'll be on the point of ranting, to be honest. Shout out to everybody currently in the chat. You guys know the deal. Let's take attendance/roll call. Shout out to Manny Cruz, Amy, Glenn, CJ, Joseph, Chris. We got Lori the legend, Steven, KG Baseball, Jeff F, like that name, Jesse Dominguez, George Chamberlain, Stevie Batts, Marcus, Manny. Sorry if I missed anybody. Listen, hope everyone's enjoying their day, despite the Yankees being absolute garbage. All right, let's pull up the box score. Let's recap the game a little bit. The Yankees lost 6-3. We know that right off the bat here. Looking at the lineup, everyone just performed pretty putridly. Judge had a big hit. LeMahieu had a solid day. But other than that, bro, I mean, just look at all those zeros. Look at all those zeros in the box score. I understand like Rougned had a solo shot too, but it's like look at his OPS. He has a 468 OPS. Like that's like minor league level. The bats are just dead. Like that's the only way to describe it. And I don't see them waking up anytime soon. And also, like, let's not forget, Glasnow was not at his best today whatsoever. They had him on the ropes multiple times.
Glasnow might have actually been at his worst.
Yeah.
Tyler Glasnow is not a pitcher where he's going to rely too much on command. Like they actually even talked about it in the broadcast. To be honest, the broadcast might have been the best part about today's game. There was only one hiccup. I think them talking about Gardy way too much was probably the only part I didn't enjoy. But Paul O'Neill brought up a lot of good points in today's game.
Paul O'Neill has been awesome this season.
He's been great. The first thing we'll circle back to this, but he mentioned how Joe Torre gave the Yankees a post-game speech, or he laid into them after they lost to Atlanta, and then they ended up winning 16 of their next 18 or something like that. John Flaherty told a similar story. Yeah. I love that. I love those stories. And then he also talked about how Tyler Glasnow is just kind of a guy who, even if he doesn't have good command, he can get away with it because he obviously is 6'8" or 6'7", something like that. So it's already coming on you quick. He throws 99 to 100, and his curveball is filthy. So you could kind of catch Glasnow sometimes by surprise if you're sitting fastball, because if you sit curveball, the fastball is going to get past you. You're just not going to catch up to 99. And you saw a lot of guessing today. And he gave them either balls that were like to the backstop or right down the middle at most points. Like sometimes he will spot up because he's a major league pitcher. It's going to happen. But he gave them plenty of times and opportunities to come through. The first inning was the first time that they gave him that opportunity, and there was a lot of them after.
Yeah,
And they just
I
kind of
think.
they blew every single one. So
Yeah, and I think that's what the issue was. It's the Yankees kind of showed today with the same issue they've had all season. They just can't cash in when it counts. And that's kind of the key. I mean, Hicks had probably one of the worst at bats of the season. Swinging at a breaking ball that almost hit him. Like, bro, like stuff like this is just ridiculous, and it can't happen at this point. Um, I'm just sick to my stomach with this team, but it's at the point where I'm not even upset anymore. It's just because like we come to expect it. But it's crazy to think about that after this loss today. The Yankees now have the worst record in the American League.
they
It's
actually had it. Yes,
unbelievable.
they had the worst record yesterday, um, after last night's game, and I'm not gonna lie. Like we talk all the time about how we have this team that is good on paper and they have the potential to run away with the American League this year because there's not a ton of competition, which I still believe is true as far as I don't think the American League is super strong this year.
Yeah.
However, the Yankees the Yankees look worse than every single one of the potential contenders. Like every single one of them,
No, I know.
including like teams like that are fringe, like the Indians, or like the Twins. Like I just teams that you would expect them to be like at least shoulders and whatever that expression is better than those teams, like
Yeah.
the AL Central teams, besides the White Sox, and it's just like nothing positive out of these games. There's not one. I guess you could say Monty looked decent. I did like how Monty pitched. He got us into the seventh inning. I think if we did give him a little bit more support, maybe he would have powered through the seventh inning. I don't even think he gave up. How many hits did Monty give up?
He gave up only two
Two
hits.
hits, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think the he gave up a couple mistakes. Mejia's home run wouldn't have even been a home run anywhere else.
Oh yeah.
But it was a mistake, but it wouldn't have been a home run anywhere else. Margot's home run looked like it was a fly out, and it just kept going. And those were the two hits. So
Yeah.
I like how Monty pitched. But I just, other than that, like there's nothing positive about this team. The defense is
No.
still not great. The hitting is just like constant eyesore after eyesore. And today I think some of the at bats got better, and it was just like, okay, we gave a couple good at bats, and now let's just go back to being absolute trash and non-competitive.
Yeah,
So
bro. It's so frustrating that like guys like Giancarlo Stanton look absolutely lost at the plate. Hicks lost at the plate. Gleyber Torres lost at the plate. Gleyber Torres is one of the most frustrating because every time he walks up to the plate, it seems like he wants to crush the ball 500 feet. How long have we been saying that's not the type of hitter we want to see out of Gleyber Torres? We want to see like
yeah,
the guy who could slap the ball to all sides of the field, put the ball in play. We don't need Gleyber to be that 500-foot home run monster. And I think after
yeah,
2019, he kind of has that in his head, like, bro, I gotta hit 40 home runs a season because that's my value to this club. And that was
yeah.
never why the Yankees acquired him in the first place. And it's
But I
so
think
frustrating.
I think the thing that's kind of what I'm talking about. Like these guys come up with. I think Gleyber had a couple decent at bats today where he worked some walks, and then he comes up again. His third at bat, I'm pretty sure it was, just like trying to do so much
Yeah.
in one at bat. And Stan's first at bat was a good at bat. He hit a ball hard.
Yeah.
He sized up the fastball, sized up the. You could almost everyone in the stadium knew a breaking ball was coming there. You could tell Glasnow was like fidgeting with his glove. It was very obvious. And he sat on it perfectly, hit it hard at third base. Wendell made a beautiful play. He just made an error on the throw. I think that should have been scored a hit, but doesn't matter. Point being, he had a good at bat. He comes back after that, and it's just like all that game planning and gamesmanship with the pitcher out the window. It's just kind of like, I'm just going to go up here and swing if it looks close. Aaron Hicks, same thing. First at bat, base hit up the middle. Looks good. Lefty swing. People are talking about he should drop the left. First at bat on the left side, base hit up the middle off of a tough pitcher. Comes up again, and it's just I understand that pitches are hard to hit, especially a guy like Tyler Glasnow. So I don't always say like, what are you swinging at? Like I know it's a common thing that we always say, like, what are you swinging at? When it's a guy like Tyler Glasnow, it's hard to ever say that because
Yeah.
he's ridiculous. But when you don't have a game plan, it makes it that much more difficult. So when you go up there and you're swinging at a ball that's 97 miles an hour at your face, and then another one is right down the middle, and you sit and watch it, that means you just go up there with no game plan. So I don't know if this is on Marcus Timms. I don't know if this is on the
I think
hitters
it
getting
has to
too
be.
complacent. It has to
It
be
has to
because
be.
I don't know who else you blame. There's way too much talent on this roster for them to just go up there with looking absolutely lost. Like, I understand hitting the ball hard, you run into some bad luck, everybody slumps, it happens. But for
I
them to
agree.
just look absolutely lost is crazy.
Yeah, and I think Matt Finch brings up a good point here. He said it's Les Glaber thinking he needs to hit 40 in the season. It's like he wants to hit 40 in that at bat. And I think that's kind of what you said. He just seems like he's trying to do too much. Especially when you're down by a few runs. A solo home run is not gonna do any specific damage. You're better off getting a base in that situation, right? And trying to
Yeah.
like start a rally. But Marcus Timms, bro, I mean, maybe we have to start looking at the coaching staff. Because at the end of the day, the players are the ones that produce on the field. But like, bro, at some point you have to kind of look at the coaching staff and be like, you know what? This is the same team that completely disappears offensively in the playoffs every season.
Mhm.
And now they can't even hit in the regular season against like solid pitching. I mean, like it's
Bro,
concerning because, bro, you're gonna be facing guys like Tyler Glasnow in the postseason.
yeah.
And if we like, let's not forget the Yankees couldn't touch Glasnow in the postseason last year if their only runs off Glasnow in the entire
Yeah.
series.
Yeah,
So
I think I've been saying this for a while. I know you are on board with me. I genuinely think that the coaching is one of the major issues of this ball club. And circling back to kind of what I talked about with Paul O'Neill telling that story about Joe Torre, right? Like they were playing well. That's what Paul O'Neill said. They were playing well in that season, and they just lost to the Atlanta Braves. And Joe Torre was like, "Listen, you just let them know that they can beat you. So whether you think this is a meaningful game or not, we're going to
yeah,
see them down the line, and they're going to have confidence." And guess what? We played like trash all throughout the season against the Rays. So how did you think they felt when we played them in the ALDS? You think they went into that
exactly.
series scared? No, they knew
No,
that they could beat us. If anything, it was the opposite. We probably didn't even know if we could beat them. Like, that was probably the feeling
exactly.
in the clubhouse. They were probably the Yankees were probably more scared of anything, which it should always be. If you're the New York Yankees, it should always be the opposite. Teams should be intimidated to play you, and especially when you have a roster constructed the way that they do. Like, the amount of guys who are capable of being all stars on this team. We talked about it in the regular in the offseason. They
Yeah,
have a potential for like 6 to 7 all stars at the very least, and it's just like there's no one scared of the Yankees anymore. And I think a lot
yeah.
of that has to do with coaching. So yes, I understand that Aaron Boone may have laid into the guys yesterday after the game. But when you're doing that after everything goes terrible already, it's almost like, okay, we expect you to yell at us now. If you
Yeah,
maybe would have yelled at us after opening day or last year at some point when things maybe are going decent, but we are not putting in all the energy that we need to, maybe it'll come as more of a shock. You know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, look, like Derek brings up a good comment here. The worst of all here is that there's no position players in the minors on the horizon to add energy.
Yep.
And if you look at the Yankees' record right now, they're 4 games under 500. Last time they were 4 games under 500 was June of 2016, just a little bit under a month before. They completely blew things up, right? That was when they traded Miller, Chapman, Beltran, and completely went into like rebuilding mode for about 2 weeks. But when they did that, they had guys in the minor leagues ready to come up and provide some energy to that team. That's why they didn't finish. They almost made the playoffs that year as
Yeah.
a wild card team just because of that energy. So
Didi got really
Judge,
hot.
yeah, Judge came up, Sanchez came up, Tyler Austin came up. They had Sevy too at that point, I believe.
Hmm. Yep.
So like the Yankees don't have anything right now to interject that energy into this team, and who knows when Luke Voigt's coming back? We're still over a month away from that, so it's really concerning just to see this team. And like you said, Tampa clearly has a mental edge on the Yankees right now for quite a while. I believe since 2019, the Rays have won 17 out of 22 games or something like that, like
Well,
something ridiculous.
2019 we dominated them, but then
I
this
mean, like
past.
since the end of
Oh
2019.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you, and I also think that it's tough because the way that the Yankees brass, so like Hal Steinbrenner and Brian Cashman and all of our front office people have constructed this team is that they're very focused on staying under the luxury tax, right? Like, that's their thing. They're very concerned about money all of a sudden. And Brian, I don't all the way blame Brian Cashman because he kind of has to just work with what he's given.
Yeah.
I'm sure he does have a pull in some of the bad decisions that are being made, but I can't fully blame him because when he's been given money, he uses it. I.e., Garrett Cole, i.e., Giancarlo Stanton, just people in the past where when he's given the opportunity to spend money, he does it, and when he's given the opportunity to bring in players that make a difference, he does that. When he was given the okay to sell in 2016, he did it very well, and I think we all know that. So I'm just a little bit cautious on being excited for the future because I genuinely think we talked about last year being like the peak of our window. I think that window is slowly starting to close because I don't have any confidence that we're going to re-sign any of the key players of this team, and I don't have any confidence that we're going to go out there and spend money on any other guys. Like I genuinely think this is a team that's going to be bargain shopping for the rest of the
Yeah.
foreseeable future. We don't have any major prospects anywhere near close. Jason Dominguez hasn't played a single pro game still. And all of our like guys that were, I guess, highly touted, like a Clark Schmidt, Michael King, we've kind of seen already what they can do. Florio, I know Schmidt's been injured, so I just there's nothing to be excited about. And we don't have any money, so like we do. They don't want to spend any money. They have like $3 million left under the luxury tax. So are we going to trade for an amazing starting pitcher and then not re-sign him? I guess like what is our plan here? If this is the team, if this is it, the Yankees started 5-8 in 2019, and it looked nowhere near as bad as this because we could see we saw the greener side, if that made sense. There's no greener side here. This is.
Yeah, I mean, listen, bro, like the Yankees are in a terrible position right now. Like we know that. And like looking towards the future, I would kind of say the progression isn't upwards, it's downwards. Just because, like we said, the farm system doesn't look that great. They don't want to spend any money. So it's like, what is there to really look forward to in the future? It's like the future is now. And I hate that saying, but it's true for the Yankees. And the future has been now for the past 3 years. And they haven't been able to take advantage of it. But another piece of the game today that was kind of frustrating was Gary Sanchez. Bro, I don't understand why he refuses to put that hand behind his back. Just because of cases like these, the ball literally hit him directly on the hand. X-rays came back negative, but his hand swelled up like a baseball. Apparently, he's day-to-day, but he's not going to be playing tomorrow. I don't think he was going to be playing tomorrow anyway because Cole's on the mound. Like, this is just a perfect excuse for the Yankees to start Higgy with Cole, right?
Yeah, no, I think this works out. I don't want to say works out perfectly, but I guess for them it does. He was going to have a day off anyway. So if he was going to get hurt and need a day, I guess this is the time for it to happen. I mean, listen, I'm not down on Gary. I've liked how Gary's looked so far this year. I really hate the one knee down thing, but that's not his fault. He's following his coach's instructions.
Bro, just put your hand behind your back so you avoid this. Like his hand could have been broken.
Of course, I'm just saying. No, yeah, I agree. And this has been a problem in the past. I'm just saying in general. Besides this whole little hand thing, I think I did say that there's been no positive so far to start the season. I think Gary has been one positive just because he's been pretty solid behind the plate. He's been giving. At no point have I looked at Gary at the plate and said like he looks terrible, he looks lost, the same way he did this year and how pretty much everyone else has this year. I think Gary is a guy who would have benefited so much from keeping a guy like Joe Girardi around.
You got the robot thing going on again.
Can you hear me now?
No, it's robot.
Hello.
Maybe you want to like disconnect your AirPods or something.
Hello.
So in the meantime, I'll kind of like go on a rant about Aaron Boone. Chad, let me say something.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I could hear you now.
I was just saying Gary Sanchez would benefit a lot from having a former catcher in Joe Girardi. Not Aaron Boone, who just babies it.
And I do kind of want to go on a little bit of a rant about Aaron Boone. I don't know if this is me just like overreacting, but THG's comment here: why was Aaron Boone seemingly so happy in the press conference? What a clown this dude is. Something that really pissed me off today, and like I said, I don't know if it's just going to be me overreacting, but they showed like a little highlight clip. I think it was before the game of Phil Nevin and Aaron Boone kind of like goofing around with Brett Gardner in the dugout, like doing the bat thing, and Boone is literally like just having the time of his life. Aaron, I don't know if you could tell, but your team has the worst record in the American League. And this is a team that on paper was the heavy favorite to win the American League going into the season. And here you are just goofing around in the dugout looking like a total doofus before a game that means a ton for your season. Like today's game was one of the most important of the season so far for the Yankees. And here you are just like setting this doofus culture in the clubhouse. And bro, I just thought it was so corny.
I think you could even tell from how some of the veterans go about, like a lot of our veterans that even a guy like Jay Bruce, who I don't think is going to contribute to this team at all anymore. He even does some like coaching on the side because I feel like our actual coaches don't do it. Like Clint Frazier
Yeah.
talked about how Jay Bruce has been coaching him up. You saw Jay Bruce coaching up Rougned Odor a little bit. Like you seen him talking to Gary, and obviously we know what Garrett Cole does when he's not pitching. Like whenever a young pitcher comes off the mound, he goes straight to Garrett Cole, not even to Matt Blake.
Yeah, no, easily.
I think Matt Blake. I don't really know how much of an impact he's had. I don't really know how much he does. I've seen him talk to guys before, but when Michael King came out the game, when Monty came out the game in Tampa, like they go straight to Garrett Cole, not to our pitching coach, not to their manager. Yeah. It's just like I just really want to know what these coaches are really impacting. What are they really doing?
It says a lot.
Forward.
It really says a lot because like the coaches are supposed to be that figurehead, right? They're supposed to be like the guy you go to like right when you exit the game. Like Tyone, for example. Tyone's going right to Cole. Even Domingo Germán, bro. Domingo Germán, after he struggled in the start, he went right to Garrett Cole. Now we understand like Garrett Cole is the guy in the Yankees clubhouse. He's the only one that we say has like that killer mentality. He wants to win every single game. But it's like the coach has got to do something at this point. Obviously, we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. But based on what we could see, Aaron Boone is just a total doofus. I'm sorry, bro. The dude is a doofus. That's the only word I could use to describe him. It's so frustrating. Like that we're so aggravated with this team, right? In the pregame, we come on and we're like, bro, like we're so aggravated. Like this is annoying, especially coming off of last night's loss. And then we see the Yankees in the dugout just like, all right, like this is whatever.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, and it's funny because also in our pregame, like I did give him a little bit of credit for how he handled last night, and then I also said it kind of just seems like none of that really matters anymore. Like he comes out the next day and puts out a terrible lineup. They showed
third,
Guardian there higher than Gio Urshela, and then you see the whole clip of him and Nevin, and I think Nevin's a guy who I traditionally give a lot of props to for getting on people and being kind of a ruler of the clubhouse, like being strict and calling guys out. Like I do appreciate that from him, but just kind of seeing them, it just seems like they don't really care. They're taking the mindset that a lot of Yankees fans have adapted, where it's like these games don't really matter. And I don't know why people think that. Like I know that it's April. I know that things could turn around quickly. I know we could have an amazing month of May and all of a sudden be first. Like all those things could happen. But this does matter. Every single regular season game matters. This is not spring training anymore. So although it's early, it still matters.
I will say this. I can understand the perspective of not every one of these games matters in the eyes of these guys because it's 162. It's a long season. But when poor performance starts to become a trend, that's when these games matter. Because if you just lose a random game, right? Like it happens. You're gonna lose games throughout the season. So I can understand that. But it's like now there's a trend that you're losing games and not even putting up a fight. So that's when you kind of have to wake up and realize, like, you know what, like all these games do matter now because we got to turn around the ship before it gets way too ugly.
But the difference is that I agree with you that like I'm not saying if you lose every game you need to be sulking about it up until the next day because it is a long season. I'm saying it matters in that you should go into every single game like it could be your last game. That doesn't mean like if you lose in extra innings or you manage it like it's game 7 of the World Series. Like I'm not saying that. I know some games mean more, but every single game, every 162nd game of this regular season matters, and you should go into it trying to win every single game. I could never imagine having the opportunity to play baseball or manage Major League Baseball, get paid millions of dollars to do a job that so many people around the world would kill to do. Mm-hmm. Literally play a game for millions of dollars, and all you have to worry about is, and I'm not saying it's easy by any stretch, I'm just saying it's a blessing to be in that position to do that. And to just kind of be like, oh, well, it's still April. This game doesn't really matter. I know that they never say that, but you can tell. Look at how they go about these games. Look at some of the lineups that our team puts out. It's clear that some of these games, especially early on, do not matter to them, and it's kind of disappointing as a fan who invests so much.
Yeah, it's troubling because then it leads you into situations where opposing teams feel like they own you going into the postseason, and that's exactly what happened with the Rays last year. we could tell that when the Rays play the Yankees, they know that these games mean a lot because the Yankees are a division rival. They're going to be fighting for the division all year, and they want to make their place known. And they do that. Like, you could tell how much the Rays try in these series, and I respect the hell out of them for that. They're not like the Yankees just walking in here and just being like, oh, well, at the end of the day, like, we're going to make the postseason anyway. Like, no, it doesn't work like that, because if you fall too deep into a hole, it's so much tougher to get out. Like, the Yankees are digging their own grave right now.
100%. And that's why I also hate this. Like, do I want Aaron Judge to be healthy in the playoffs? Absolutely. But if he needs to half-ass his way through regular season games, then I don't even want him on our – like, I love Aaron. Don't get me – I'm going to say something that people are probably going to be like, it's a ridiculous take. But if you have to half-ass your way through the regular season just so that you could potentially be healthy in October –
No, it sounds crazy.
I don't want a guy like that on my team anymore. Like, I want guys who can come in, play their ass off for 162 games, realistically probably like 155, because guys need days off. It happens. Things happen, whatever. But if every time you're on the field, you should be giving 100%. Like, it's not. It should never be. I'd rather, like, he said some quote that everyone praised the other day, where he was like, the difference between playing 155 games and 157 shouldn't dictate me like diving for a ball or whatever. And that quote pissed me off so much, because if you're already thinking about game 167 or 157 when your team is last in the American League standings, like, you need to be focused on today. You need to be focused on April 17th, not game 157. You're like, that's the Yankees mentality now. They think they can just show up, place.
They think it's guaranteed.
They think they could place their gloves and bats on the field and just end up in the ALCS, and it clearly does not work that way. And like you said, the Rays show up trying to dominate every single pitch, and the Rays are not even like. I don't even think Yankees fans really realize, or baseball fans realize, when the Yankees play the Rays this year, the Rays have been pretty terrible against every other team.
Yeah.
I think the only other series that they've won so far was against the Red Sox opening week, or the second series of the year. Like, that's
Didn't they get swept by the Red Sox?
I think they've played them twice, and I think they beat them once, and then I'm pretty sure. If you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they only won a series against the Red Sox. And other than that, it's been like,
bro, they lost 3 out of 4 to Texas right before this.
That lead that they got in the first inning off of Nick Nelson yesterday was the first lead that they have, I believe they said, in 14 innings or 24 innings.
It's ridiculous. But I want to go back to the point you made about Judge, right? And you said if the guy can't give it his all every game of the season, you don't want him on your team. Yeah. Now, I don't know if this is a bad take for me, but I feel the same way about Aaron Boone. And I see like a lot of people in the comments making excuses for him, like not getting too riled up on the heart thing. If my manager can't get himself riled up because he has health issues, then for the sake of him and for the sake of team, I don't think I want him as my manager. Well, like, I don't think that that's a bad thing to say. It's a part of the job.
No, it's not. I don't think you're wrong for that. I don't think it's an unreasonable thing to ask for. I think he's a bad manager regardless. But I don't think he would make this excuse. Like, I don't think he's ever going to come out and say, I don't get amped up because of the heart thing. But he's never been that kind of manager regardless. Like,
I'm even saying, like, going to argue with the umpire. Like, there's multiple instances this season where that had to be done. I would say at least 3 games so far.
No, I agree with you. Listen, you're not going to sway me the wrong way with that opinion. I completely agree with you. And I also think it translates to everything else. Like, I don't just think I don't understand why we're having preservation plans for our players that should be powering us through.
Bro, they wouldn't let Stanton play the field in spring training.
And they gave him, we had a stretch where I believe we played maybe we're going to play 10 games in 15 days or something like that. Something like that. I don't remember the exact stretch.
Yeah.
But they gave him a day off right before we had a scheduled day off. And they said, like, we weren't going to play him 5 days in a row. He DHs.
Yeah.
Let's say the game is 3 hours long. He's on his feet for maybe 5 minutes. I'm not even – he's on his feet.
No, I know. Bro, he's a DH.
Especially because he doesn't get on base that much anymore. So he's on his feet for 5 minutes. And so, like, if you can't be in the lineup as a DH – and I'm not saying it's on him. I don't think it's just on him. I think if you asked him, he'd want to play every single day. But you have to rest guys from DHing and then like we have professional athletes that can't stay healthy on AstroTurf.
It's ridiculous. It's
We're not.
crazy to think about.
This is not a football team. Like this is not a football
But
team that plays every day.
before I do bring up you Elvis's comment, I do want to say, like, I think this is just an example of society as a whole and kind of just how soft the world has become. You know what I mean? Like, even like 5 years ago, bro, like we would never hear like, oh, the guy can't play on turf because like he's at risk of getting injured. Like, I think society's just going in the direction of just like everyone's becoming so soft. Like
Or
no one knows how to deal with adversity at
or
all.
we would. I think the only time I've ever heard that before was when Jose Reyes was like 35 and he went to the Blue Jays, and they talked about he's had like 4 knee surgeries, and they were saying he might struggle on the AstroTurf
Yeah,
because of his knees, and he still played. Like it wasn't. It
I
was never
know.
talked about
I
again.
know. But listen, shout out to you, Elvis, with the $5 dono. You're a straight legend, bro. Appreciate you. Boone will lose the clubhouse and nothing will be done. You know, did you read Inside the Empire?
I did. I actually have it standing right there.
Okay, I'm really interested to see if there's going to be like just some sort of elaborate book that comes out when like Boone's tenure with the Yankees is done and just like exposes like all the chaos that actually goes on in the clubhouse, because there has to be some sort of like lack of control among the players, no?
I don't. I well, kind of, but I think it's almost like. Well, I don't think there would be a book just because the past 2 years they haven't even been able to have any like inside the clubhouse coverage.
Yeah.
It would be a lot harder. Like back in the day, you had guys that were like literally spending time with the teams, spending time in the team's hotels. Like it's a little bit different now. Um, but I don't think contrary to what most people probably believe, I don't think Boone's gonna lose this clubhouse because I think everyone's kind of adapted that culture. I think the only people that probably haven't is like Luke Voigt and Garrett Cole.
Bro, it's so dangerous.
Did you
And
go?
and that's because they're not homegrown.
Yeah.
They've only been with Boone for a very short amount of time. Like,
Even Stanton, like I think Stanton's a guy who I think if you gave him a manager like Alex Cora, he would take off because
oh yeah.
somebody would push him a little bit more. And I think instead of being Stanton's not a guy you can baby.
No,
Judge
yeah.
you can baby. I think guys like that need to be pushed because although
Glaber too, bro.
yeah, they work hard, and I have no doubt in my mind that they're at working on their craft every single day. When they show up, it's almost like I'm waiting for the next guy to do the job. Like I'm gonna hope that the guy behind me can do the job rather than me stepping. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna handle
Yeah.
everything. And I think Alex Cora kind of instills that mentality in his players. AJ Hinch as well. Like that's why those guys have been so successful, even
You know,
cheating.
I took a sociology class. Is that what this topic is kind of about? Yeah, I guess. I took a sociology class a couple years ago in college. And I believe there was a theory where it's like people adapt to their environment. And I'm like a firm believer in that. And clearly if you set a culture in the clubhouse like the Yankees have since Boone has become the manager, and it's not necessarily focused on winning and accountability and going out there and giving it 110% every night, the players are going to adapt to that environment, regardless of where they're coming from. And if we look at Garrett Cole, he just came to the Yankees in 2020. So obviously that mentality is not affecting him. But also Garrett Cole's a different animal. He'll never be affected by that just because he's so strong mentally. But guys like Gleyber Torres, who, I mean, the Yankees organization is all he really knows besides coming over from the Cubs in 2016. Like, this is all he knows. So it's like, you got to set a different environment in that clubhouse so the players can adapt to that, because they will eventually. It'll take some time, but I just don't see this environment changing as long as Boone's the manager. I really don't.
Look at our last two managers. All like you said, those two, winning and accountability. Those are two things that we do not have right now. Clearly, we're not winning games, and I don't see any accountability. Like the only accountability came
except for Frazier.
Right, of course, but like my point is just like I don't see any way that like the Yankee way, like the whole thing that everyone talks about. Like I thought when I show up to the Yankees, I know they're about winning. I know they're about championships. I know they're like we're not about that right now. We haven't won a championship in 12 years. We haven't made it past the AL. We haven't even made it to the World Series in 12 years. And right now, it's just kind of like if we hit a rough patch, it's like, well, you hear the interviews from the players. Well, it's part of the game. Well, we're going to turn it around. And Aaron Boone saying, well, we're not hitting right now, but once we do start hitting, it's going to be great. We're going to turn a corner. It's like everything's so happy and everything will be fine. And it's never fine. We never end up going where we need to go in the postseason.
No, yeah. Bro, we're like that. We're like that dog sitting in the room that's on fire, and we're like, this is fine.
Everything's
Because
fine.
that's exactly what it is. I do want to bring up Richard's comment because I think it's quality. Why is it that you watch the Rays with these no-name players enter the game and make something happen versus the Yankees and the names like Hicks get them out of the lineup or bat him ninth? I think the difference is the players on the Rays know that they're playing for something, right? They're playing to earn the respect of the league. They're playing to earn their spot on the team. And they're also like just playing for themselves, bro. It seems like the Yankees I don't want to say they don't care because obviously I want to hope that they do, but they're not showing that they care enough, and they're not showing that they realize every one of these games matter. And it goes back to what we said before. The Rays know that every one of these games matter because they're not a perennial playoff contender. The Yankees are, so they feel like that these games are just like given to them, and it's not. And I don't know when they're going to realize that. I really don't. It's so frustrating.
The Rays have the culture. They have that culture that's needed to win games. It doesn't if you look at all the historic franchises in sports history, not just baseball, but in sports history. I know people throw the Yankees in there, which understandably so. But over the past, I'll say 5 years, we haven't, or maybe 4 years, we haven't been a part of that grouping.
I agree.
Has been here. But if you look at the New England Patriots, if you look at the San Antonio Spurs, the Los Angeles Lakers, you could even include the Miami Heat, like organizations that are known for their integrity, their accountability, winning, working hard, like all those different things. Even to some degree, the New York Giants before kind of like the disaster. I'm not going to get too deep into the history of the Giants, but point being, all of those things, all those organizations have similar mindsets where it doesn't matter your name on the back. It doesn't matter who we put in these jerseys. All that matters is the culture that we establish. Jimmy Butler talked a ton about it when he went to Miami, how he knew that culture was a culture that he could thrive in because everyone worked just as hard as he did. He's one of the hardest workers in the NBA. So when he showed up, he wasn't showing up as, I'm Jimmy Butler, I'm a perennial all-star, I'm one of the best players in the league, and I'm going to carry this team to the finals. It was everyone on this team is pushing for the same goal, and no one cares about their stats at the end of the night. No one cares if, we're first team all NBA, if we're an all-star. Like, nobody cares about that because we have one goal, and the goal is to win the championship. And they almost did it, almost beating a way more talented Lakers team. That's just the most recent example, but even if you look at a team like
a good example.
The Patriots bring in undrafted free agents, late-round draft picks. Tom Brady was a 6th-round draft pick. And they just bring in guys who appreciate the culture. And if you don't appreciate the culture, if you don't ingrain yourself in that culture, you're out the door. Like, you're gone. Don't want you here.
I mean, call me crazy, but I see a lot of Tom Brady and Garrett Cole. Like, just that, bro, that killer mentality that and it's so much different in baseball because in football, one guy on that team can kind of just set the pace because he's the focal point.
Right.
But it's no matter how much Garrett Cole tries to enforce that killer mentality, it can't translate to the bat because at the end of the day, it's the bats that are silent. And Garrett Cole could go out there and give the Yankees 8 scoreless innings, but if they don't score, they're not going to win the game. And that's kind of the key.
And I mean, listen, I love Garrett Cole. I think there was a moment in his start in Toronto where him and Higgy were talking, and to myself, it kind of looked like Higgy was kind of patting him on the back, for pitching out of his jams and figuring it out. Yeah, because I don't know if everyone remembers, he started off that game not looking too great, and then he sat down 15 in a row, and it almost looked like Garrett Cole said to him, "Like, yeah, it's great, but we don't have any runs."
Exactly.
And then Higgy went up there and hit a 2-run home run. So it's not to say that he can change the entire culture, but it just goes to show you that the culture does have an impact. Accountability does have an impact. I'm not saying that's why Higgy hit the home run. I'm just saying a little bit, if you feel like you're playing for your brothers and for each other, not just for your stats or for meaningless regular season games to them, none of that. Oh, Garrett Cole pitched a gem, which is a positive. We lost, but it's okay because we have Garrett Cole still. No, we lost. We let down Garrett Cole. You know what I mean? It should have that mentality.
Imagine having a manager like Garrett Cole.
We literally had one.
No, I know.
That's what those kind of I know a lot of people may not remember Joe Torre very well. That's who Joe Torre was. Joe Torre is a little bit more reserved than Garrett
Yeah.
Cole. Garrett Cole is a lot more fiery, but Joe Torre was so like the accountability he had for his players, and he managed a lot of amazing players, a lot of Hall of Famers, and he held every single one of them accountable, and that's why they earned his respect. That's why he was able to manage so many personalities and so many great talent.
Bro, you could even say the same thing about Girardi. I mean,
Agree, yeah.
I think a lot of people don't give Girardi enough credit for entering a clubhouse with solidified stars like Jeter, A-Rod, like Posada, Rivera, and it's tough to enter as a new face and be a manager on that team.
And following Joe Torre.
Exactly. Following Joe Torre. And like the fact that it seems like once the Yankees took a younger route to everything in 2017, and they felt like Joe Girardi wasn't that guy for the younger guys because they wanted a friend as a manager instead, it might end up being the worst mistake. And like I know we've been talking a lot about Aaron Boone and like clubhouse culture this whole time. Let's not like discredit the fact that the Yankees just need to perform. At the end of the day, this goes on the hitters. This goes on the players that are on the field. If there's not a winning clubhouse culture, create it yourself. Don't put the blame on other people. Just because Aaron Boone might be a little lackadaisical sometimes, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't want to play for yourself. And you shouldn't want to be the one to like guide your team to a victory. Yeah. I don't care if no one else in the clubhouse feels like that. The players that are making millions of dollars to play a game should realize this themselves. So I think we really need to give the hitters some more accountability as well.
Another point, again, the broadcast today, I believe it was John Flaherty, where I forget the exact quote he said, but basically like you be a part of somebody might remember what he said, but it was like you need to be a part of your own advancement of like getting out of a mess or whatever it was. And he said it came from, again, we're talking about franchises with prestigious records. This came from the Miami Heat. It might have been Paul Hill, actually. It came from the Miami Heat and Pat Riley, who's another coach now, like team president, and just talking about like you being the person who gets it started. Don't look to the next guy to get something started. Don't look for somebody else to get you out the slump. Hold yourself accountable, and if you get yourself out the slump, that affects the next guy, and then the next guy, and the next thing you know, everybody's out of the slump. And slump could be you, like Clint Frazier, being 0 for whatever, or the slump could be losing 4 games in a row. Like all those things are relevant. So
yeah, listen, I think we kind of touched on everything I want to touch on as far as the post game today. I think it's just really unfortunate that we have to come on here just about after every single game, and there's not much good to take away from the conversation. But hopefully the Yankees turn around soon. We've been saying this for so long; it's only a matter of time before they do turn it around. It's got to be sometime soon. Because yesterday, what I said was the only positive I could draw from last night's game was that maybe they were at rock bottom, right? And the only place to go from the bottom is up. Like they're like plateauing at rock bottom right now.
Still digging.
No, like I wouldn't say they were still digging because like today was a little bit of progress. Because I mean, last night was just god awful. So like they're kind of just being like stagnant at the bottom right now.
Yeah, but still digging in the fact that every loss is going further down into this hole that it's going to be tough to crawl out of, especially when you beat the toughest. Well, I was going to say the toughest opponent in your division, but I guess it's not. The Red Sox are now,
and the Blue Jays are good too. So yeah, bro, the Yankees are screwed, I guess. But let's meditate for a win tomorrow, I guess, right? Just so this team can maybe turn around the ship. Right? 3, 2, chat. How about everyone in the chat meditate with us too? I don't know if you guys meditate with us, but let's go.
Prayer hands emojis in the chat.
Ready? 3, 2, 1. Meditate. I just watched Joey Wendell hit a grand slam.
No prayer hands in the chat. So
I see Jerome asks, gonna go live on Twitch after this. Yes, we're gonna do an early Twitch stream, twitch.tv/Unhinged New York. I'll be playing franchise on there most likely. So head over there. I'll be live on there in like 2 minutes. Listen, I appreciate you all in the chat. Thanks for stopping by. Love the prayer hands. Appreciate you all. Listen, we will be live tomorrow for the pregame at 12 p.m. Eastern time, and then we're going to be going live once again after the game tomorrow night. Hope you guys all have an awesome day despite the Yankees being terrible. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe. See you on Twitch in about 5 minutes. Peace.